Get started. Bob, take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I don't have anything to highlight on the first page. On page, well, actually, I'm sorry.
One public speaker.
The public speaker is from Heart Spring, in case you missed that.
Yeah.
Okay, page 2.
Do you know if she's speaking on behalf of Hearth Spring or that's just her email
That I
address?
don't know.
Okay.
On page 2, number 1, down at the bottom, number 1, this is approval of some amendments to the development agreement and parking agreements for the Douglas Market development, and that's the development that includes the DO school. There are some amendments to the remodeling schedules. The most significant is to the Sutton building. It would push the remodeling back, the deadline, by a year. However, it would also reduce the tax abatement schedule by a year. So there would only be 9 years of abatement instead of 10.
And just so FYI, I will be abstaining from this vote.
Okay. There are also, and the delays are primarily related to COVID that has hurt their construction schedule. There's also an amendment to the parking, some amendments to the parking agreement that I don't consider to be significant. And then there is a provision that would allow WSU, for the WSU tech space in the old Henry's building, to be financed with the use of IRBs and a property tax abatement, and that has some implications on the project, so that's included in the development agreement as well, the change. Staff will do a better job explaining all those moving pieces during the council meeting. On page 3, number 2, this is kind of a rarity. This is setting a date of hearing to amend the Chicken and Pickle CID to actually take a parcel out of the CID, so it will not, the CID will not be collected on this parcel if you approve the amendment to the district boundaries. Number 3 is coming from the library board, and that is a recommendation for the naming of the remodeled Evergreen facility. Number 4 is $2 million for the relocation of water mains along arterials that will be receiving improvements during the next year. Number 5 is our annual program for replacement of water and sewer mains, $5.8 million for each category. So it's 5.8 for sewer and 5.8 for water. Page 4. Number 6 is the third phase of the aquatics master plan. This would allow us to move forward with the rehabilitation of College Hill Pool, the construction of water playgrounds in Plainview and Harrison Parks, and then also a number of improvements to existing bathhouses.
What kind of improvements are we talking about for the rehabilitation at College Hill? I didn't know that there were pool improvements considered.
Yeah.
So the majority of it is mechanical.
Okay.
Also, there's going to be additions to the pool, additional lane for swim team, actually, I think there's splash items.
My recollection is there's some bathhouse improvements as well, tuck pointing and some things like that.
Thank you.
Number 7 is the quarterly report. And then down at the bottom, number 1, under the planning agenda, is the rezoning in College Hill adjacent to Happiness Plaza. Page 5, another zoning item. This is a rezoning from single family to 2-family in District 6. There are valid protest petitions. I believe that's why this is in front of you now. Bottom of page 5, just having you formally schedule a city council meeting for November 16th. We had not originally planned on having one, but again, because of the change in National League of Cities, we're going to go ahead and ask you to schedule a meeting so we can keep some business items moving. That's all on page 5, nothing on page 6. Page 7, 3B, we solicited proposals for on-call HVAC services and recommending that contract go to Waldinger. And item 3C, this is contract with ISI Environmental to do our wastewater sampling for industrial pretreatment. They probably will do almost 500 samples each year under the contract. First year of the contract is estimated to be $65,000 based on that volume of tests. Page 8, number 4 is approving a height variance for the Topgolf range netting. The height limitation there is 75. This would take it to 156 feet. This has been approved by the FAA, which is the primary reason for the limitation there originally. Number 5 is good news. This is closing the TIF district at 13th and Grove. Actually, we would be retiring the district 1 year early from our original plan. All of the debt obligations will have been met. Number 6 is the annual approval of the pooled funds investment policy. No changes are recommended in that policy this year. Number 7 is a budget adjustment for CSBG funds, and basically what it does is just reallocate some available CSBG funds between line items in the budget. Number 8 would approve the application for 4 electric buses. We'll be asking funding from FTA for that. Page 9, if you remember, we did receive shuttered venue operator funds for C2, for the Performing Arts Center in C2. The federal government has changed its regulations and allowed us to use those funds over a longer period of time, so this would extend that time frame. And we've also been awarded another $79,500 for our losses during COVID. And that'll help us in terms of C2 operations as well.
Sorry, Bob.
Yeah.
Going back to 8, the 4 electric buses.
Yes.
Is that separate from the grant that was approved earlier this year?
Yeah, Mike?
Doesn't?
Yes, sir, it is. It's highly discretionary and highly competitive, but we felt it was, fits within our business model, but it is completely separate from what you just mentioned.
Again, keeping with our ultimate goal of getting to an all-electric fleet. That's all I have on page 9, nothing on page 10, and then on page 11, just the airport item. Number 17, this would extend lease agreement with Flight Safety Textron Aviation Training. They would exercise their 5-year option. There is another 5-year option that they'd like to convert to 5 annual renewals instead of a single 5-year. That's the second piece of this action. So, Mayor, that's all I have.
All right, questions on the agenda?
Not necessarily the agenda, but just for discussion.
Cool. Discussion.
Yes, I think as council, I think we've probably all received a request for funding from Humankind. And then at the county commission meeting on Wednesday, they approved a grant or an allocation. I was just wondering where we're at in our consideration of that, and what's our timeline?
Sure, that's coming to you on the 16th. Sally, do you want to talk about what they'll be getting on the 16th?
Sure. We're allocating $125,000 in ESG CARES funding that actually Humankind left on the table from 2 prior projects. So this doesn't shift it away from any other provider.
Okay. Well, I know we have a presentation after this on housing, so I've probably jumped the gun a little bit on it, but I just wanted to let the public know that we are in receipt of the request and we have a plan for moving forward, so thank you.
Just FYI, one of the news outlets reported earlier this week after the county meeting that they quoted that we had already allocated the funding. So I'm glad
Yeah,
you brought it
that's why
up
I
because we
wanted to-
haven't yet.
Right, that's the other reason so thank you.
Okay. So Mayor, if we're finished with this, this is our second monthly presentation on specific issues in our departments, and Sally's going to present today on housing programs, primarily those dealing with homelessness. And if that's all right, we'll give you an update on where we are.
All right, Sally, the floor is yours, or Director Stang, excuse me.
where you put it. Well, good morning, Mayor and Council. Thank you so much for having us here today. This topic is pretty timely. We scheduled this about 6-8 weeks ago, and our timing just happens to be great. So I'm going to start off with just a little brief history lesson. Very brief, I promise. Homelessness has been experienced for centuries, but when we talk about homelessness now, we're talking about homelessness in the modern era. And where we've seen a marked increase in homelessness and challenges started in the early 1980s. It came about due to gentrification in large cities, the deinstitutionalization of the mentally ill, high unemployment rates, the emergence of HIV and AIDS, and an inadequate supply of affordable housing options. Also, deep budget cuts to the Department of Housing and Urban Development and other social service programs. So there have been multiple efforts federally, in the past 40 years to address homelessness, and they definitely change over time. Our most recent effort is the Hearth Act. That's the Homeless Emergency Assistance and Rapid Transition to Housing Act of 2009. And under that act, set up the requirement for organizations that apply, or entities that apply for homeless assistance funds, create a continuum of care. And this question gets asked of me a lot, so I wanted to cover it in this presentation. What is the continuum of care? So the continuum of care, it's a coalition of stakeholders. It's not just homeless service providers. I should say it's not supposed to be just homeless service providers. Our continuum of care actually has 54 member agencies. Do those 54 member agencies consistently attend meetings? No. We see that the meetings are generally attended mainly by providers. But the continuum of care is not a legal entity. It is just a collaboration of people, stakeholders, across many industries and many organizations. So HUD requires that the continuum of care designate what they call a collaborative applicant. So the collaborative applicant is the organization. It can be a state or unit of local unit of government, private, nonprofit organizations, public housing agencies. It just is the organization that your continuum or group of stakeholders designates to be responsible for the continuum of care activities. So they collect and submit the required continuum of care application to HUD for funding for homeless programs in the community. They apply for that on behalf of the continuum. And they can also be assigned additional responsibilities, and that's up to each continuum to add those additional responsibilities. So, for example, in our continuum of care, our collaborative applicant is also required to maintain the homeless management information system. They also coordinated entry. So our continuum has assigned their collaborative applicant additional duties as assigned. And for our continuum, which includes all of Sedgwick County, our collaborative applicant is United Way of the Plains. So sometimes you will hear United Way is the continuum of care. They're not truly the continuum of care. They're just the designated organization that coordinates activities for the continuum of care. So each year, the continuum of care has to submit an application to HUD to fund homeless service programs. And so what I have listed here is the programs that were funded in 2020. And you'll see is a wide variety of programs, Catholic Charities, those you would expect, Interfaith Ministries, who is now Humankind. Sedgwick County actually receives more than a third of the COC funding that comes to our community for their Shelter Plus Care program. United Way of the Plains received 5 separate grants for administration and operation of the continuum. In HUD's minds, by creating the continuum, they're allowing communities to prioritize what it is they want to fund with the funds that are available. Because it is up to the continuum of care to accept applications for programs, rank them, and submit the application to HUD. With a little caveat though, as much as HUD says, we want to give that control to your local continuum, they say, but guess what? We're going to tell you what programs we like to fund and what we don't. So they put programs into what they call Tier 1 and Tier 2. So if your continuum recommends a program that falls into Tier 2, it's possible it just might not be funded. And so Tier 2 programs include safe havens and transitional housing programs that are out of favor in HUD's eyes. So obviously the continuum is very careful and tries not to recommend programs that might just ending up a cut to the community and the programs that they're able to provide. So the 2021 application period is underway, and it is a crazy time of year when multiple people, multiple organizations are submitting applications, ranking applications, and getting ready to submit that application to HUD. But it does bring in just under $2.9 million in homeless assistance to our community. In addition to the funding that comes directly from HUD to the continuum of care, the city receives some funding to address homelessness. And in a normal year, we receive about $250,000. That's it. Just about $250,000. And you'll see in this listing here, well, actually I have Community Development Block Grant. Let's go to ESG first. ESG, Emergency Solutions Grant, is specifically required to be used for homeless service programs. And once again, HUD in their wisdom, they say, yeah, we're gonna give you that money, but we don't like you to fund shelter and outreach so much, so we're gonna put a cap and say you can only use 60% of this money to fund shelter and outreach. And you must use the remaining 40% for homeless prevention, rapid rehousing, and other activities. So again, as much as they wanna tell us, here community, design what you need, you're gonna do it within the realm that we see is appropriate. So in a normal year, you'll see here, 2019, 2020, we had about 220,000 plus admin, so it pushed it up to about 238. 2021, 22 was 228, just under 250, and then 2021, 22, 231. So with admin, we're just about $250,000 a year. That is not much to try and address homelessness in our community. However, we have been funding domestic violence shelter services out of CDBG. And in HUD's mind and world, people fleeing domestic violence are homeless, and they meet the homeless definition. And so everything that we fund for domestic violence also qualifies as funding homeless assistance. So as part of our 2019 consolidated plan, as I stated, I think in the last update, domestic violence shelter services resounded loudly from the community as a priority for us to fund. And so annually, for the past 3 years, since 2019, we have funded $250,000 of our regular CDBG allocation to domestic violence shelter services. And then in 2020, obviously, we received CDBG CARES money, and that's where you'll see a significant increase in our allocations to domestic violence and homeless assistance. So using CDBG CARES Act funding, we've provided just under $1.2 million in, $864 million in CDBG CARES funding, and then $1.5 million in the following year. We provided additional services to our regular providers in response to COVID-19, but we also expanded services, as we all know, with the Humankind studios at Humankind 316 hotel acquisition, homeless caseworkers, and then some funding for the rehab of that building. So lots of money going in the last 2 years in those two pots. We talked about our regular allocation of ESG up front. You can imagine how much Congress really felt homelessness was going to be a barrier related to COVID-19, because when we received Emergency Solutions Grants funding CARES money, we received $3.3 million. Yeah, we normally receive $250,000 to address homelessness, and they gave us $3.3 million. So we were able to deploy just over $2 million of that in 2020, 2021, and then have an additional $1.2 million going out in 21-22. Again, helping to fund agencies we generally provide services to so that they could desegregate their shelter services, add additional case managers, add additional staffing where they needed to. And then we created a couple of new programs.
Can I ask a question, Sally?
Sure can.
So CARES money came because of COVID, right? It was just allocated to us, right?
Yes.
So it worries me just a little when I hear you saying that, some of the ways that we allocated the resources is paid for staff at these organizations, because the next column, that money won't be there.
Exactly.
So it's not sustainable.
It is
And they
not.
were well aware of that, and it was their decision to make that move, I'm assuming, but
Absolutely.
sustainability and grants are that's my jam. So that worries me a little bit to hear that. But
Much of the staff was needed due to having to spread out their folks and to even move in. So like Humankind moved into the 316 ahead of time to do women's shelter during the period before the conversion to permanent housing. They needed to be able to staff that.
Okay.
Now that's not going to happen again, obviously, because that building has now been converted into housing.
Right.
So yes. And when we reached out to the agencies, we really said to them, what is it that you need? And it was really varied. Some of them, it was, masks and sanitizer and things like that. And others were like, we need, computers, system upgrades so that we can track things electronically or meet with our clients, through Zoom, that sort of thing. So we really left it open for them to come back and tell us, what is it that you need to respond to COVID-19 and assist homeless?
thank you.
So I know most of you have seen many of these charts before, but I think it's important. In the Public Housing Authority, we have resources that are designated towards homelessness, but they're only to provide the rent assistance piece. They're not the case management services in most situations, and they don't provide any additional supports other than the typical housing choice voucher provider. So we've had VASH vouchers since prior to 2019. So you see that in the 2019 column. It was the only designation to specifically address people coming from homelessness at that time. And in 2020, we had some increases. So we added the 303 homeless preference vouchers, and we added foster youth to independence vouchers. And then in 2021, we've added emergency housing vouchers that came out of ARPA. So we've definitely seen an increase in the housing assistance available. And then we have other funding. So when we look at, we do receive just over $191,000 in general fund from the city and $191,000 in general fund from the county to operate the Housing First program. And the Housing First program came about following the Task Force to End Homelessness in 2008. And the city and the county worked together and said, what is the model that seems to be most effective for those who are chronically homeless? And the definition of chronically homeless is somebody has to have been homeless for continuously for a year, or have 3 or 4 or more episodes that add up to a year, have a disabling condition. These are folks that have been on the street for a very, very long time. And so we've been operating, the housing department's been operating, administering the Housing First program since 2009. One caveat to that, though, is in February of this year, both the city and the county approved an adjustment to that program. What we were seeing was underutilization. We were not getting the referrals from outside agencies. In Housing First, the general funds are used to pay rent assistance, utility assistance. And we were depending on outside agencies to provide that case management services. And so, talking with the staff, we just were not receiving enough referrals from our outside agencies to keep those slots filled. And so we worked with the county and agreed to adjust the budget so that a portion of the county's contribution would be adjusted to providing a full-time caseworker assigned for Housing First. That was approved by the city and the county in February, but as of today's date, the county has been unable to fill that position. So we have been without a designated case manager in that program and won't be able to identify its benefits. We definitely see the program will be much stronger with a dedicated caseworker. We know we can offset some of the housing assistance expenses to some of the federal funds for some of the cases, which is why there's capacity to fund a caseworker. Caseworkers are very hard to come by.
So why hasn't the county been able to find a case worker? Is it the market where they can't find anyone, or are they not quite, what do we know about that?
Well, they've gone out 3 or 4 times to recruit for this position and have not been able to find, they have many openings in ComCare right now, so filling positions is definitely a challenge. The other funding that has come in, obviously, was the $2 million that the city put forth towards the 316 hotel acquisition. And then we have this Byrne Criminal Justice Innovation Grant that we applied for in 2020 and received. That's a $1 million grant over 3 years, so we'll be seeing the first influx of that funding in 2021, 2022. So that, as you see, we've had a huge influx of funding for homeless services from 2019 to 2021. So I'm gonna bounce this over to Dave Neinstein, Sergeant Neinstein, with the Wichita Police Department, to talk a little bit about the HOT team and their role in providing services for homeless. Dave, are you there?
Yes, I'm there. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Well, first of all, thank you, Sally, for including me on this, and just thank you all for allowing me to join the meeting. The homeless outreach team, as you can kind of see on that slide, we do a variety of things. We respond to 911 calls that involve homeless individuals. And of course, but we do, probably more importantly, we do, as it says, work in partnership with all the service providers. And as Sally touched on, the continuum of care, we're a member of that continuum of care, but we're not a provider, obviously. We're kind of a resource guide, but we're a member of that. So it's nice to be included on that, and we can stay up to date on what's going on with the provider network and be a part of that. But what helps with that is in working with them and working with all the businesses in the local community. Our biggest concern, our biggest job is outreach. That's really what we right now we do a lot of responding to 911 calls. We do a lot of responding to. We have our own phone number that people call, and since we've been around for 8 years, people do call it very regularly. So we respond to a lot of. I guess the best way to say it is complaint calls that involve campsites, so we do a lot of that. But our primary goal and focus is outreach. We really like to get out in the field and meet with people, do initial contacts with them, do forms, do an interview to find out why they're experiencing homelessness and what the reasons for that are, which are very important. And I know the mayor mentioned that a couple of weeks ago in the press briefing, and that's very important to find out what's the root cause for their issue. So we try to determine that so that we can focus on getting them to the resources they need to be successful. And we work very, very closely with housing and I was a member of the homeless outreach team, and I can tell you that I work very closely with the folks over there in housing. And the Housing First program and rapid rehousing was very important, but as Sally mentioned, case management was a real struggle for us. So I'm hoping that Byrne Criminal Justice Innovation Grant, we can hire some case managers, and that will help us, because I can locate people and I can try to get them into the program, but if I don't have case management, then I can't. So that's a key component. This slide here just indicates just some stats. I want to point out we don't receive any particular funding, from our department budget and from city tax dollars. It really just funds the salaries for the 4 personnel that are assigned to the unit, as well as our vehicles and computers. So it's just kind of an equipment and personnel issue that is funded. The other way we operate is we use donated funds from the community. We give presentations and people donate to us. So we do have money donated from the community that we use for administrative costs, whether it's printing materials or, we do have a bus program where if people are homeless and they have another place to live in a city or state with family, when we can verify that and they have no pending criminal cases, we will put them on a bus and send them to be off the street and get a fresh start with family in another city or state, and that's funded through those donated tax dollars. And you can see on the slide there, this is year-to-date statistics for 2021 up through the end of August. And as you can see on the bus ticket there, Reunite with Family, where we've put 45 people on a Greyhound bus so far this year to reunite with family and get a fresh start and be off the streets. So, but as you can see with our contacts, those can be repeat contacts. So it's not that we have 1,900 and 89 homeless people in the city, that we could have multiple contacts with the same people. We just count how many times we have contact with people just to kind of show that we're out in the field and actually, working hard. So it's quite a few contacts that we've had with people. Probably a more accurate count would be under hot forms, where it says 193. So year to date, that would be 193 new people that we've had contact with that are experiencing homelessness in the community that we haven't previously had contact with. So that's a pretty significant statistic and number. But as you can see, we have the permanent transitional housing. Those are folks that we've gotten into. It does, I will add a caveat to that, is that does include the bus folks as well. We count those as housings because we have gotten them off the street from here and they're no longer homeless in Wichita. But so overall this year to date, we've been able to get people either on a bus or actually into physical housing. We've been able to get 66 so far this year. And then you can kind of see some of the other statistics on there. But what's been really important for this year so far has just been kind of a growing partnership with housing and the grant. I believe Sally could correct me if I'm wrong, but grant money that's helped pay for some interns from Newman University and Wichita State University that are embedded with our hot team now and ride with our hot team. They're master's level students working towards those master's degrees in social work, and they ride with our officers weekly and are out in the field learning how to do the job and really do a nice job actually helping take over some duties that free us up to do other things. Simple things like returning many phone messages, just people having questions about different programs, and we're able to give those over to them. And that's a great thing. Our move-ins, when we physically move people into a property, we're able to, from the time we first have contact with them, and we're, a lot of times then when we get them into a housing program and get them into housing, we partner with local charity, His Helping Hands, to move furniture in. They found a way to partner with a local moving company, and now that company and the interns have taken over that whole process. And I can tell you, for one simple move-in, that's about a 2-hour process for us. So that saves us a good amount of time and allows us to go out and do more outreach and other things. So it's a great partnership, and we really appreciate that.
Thank you, Sergeant Neinstedt. Anybody have any questions for Sergeant? Great. So I wanted to just highlight. Oh, I'm sorry. Councilmember Sullivan.
Sergeant, I had heard, as far as the bus program goes, and this was a number of years ago that I had heard this, that oftentimes we would send a homeless person away for one reason or another, only to have them come back to Wichita. They arrived back to Wichita for one reason or another and continue to be homeless in Wichita. Are we still experiencing that? Was that not true, or did that ever happen?
It does happen, yes. I don't know that I can give a good reason for it other than, I remember sending a couple. They weren't husband and wife, but they were a couple. And we sent them down to Orlando, Florida, or I believe it was Orlando. It was down in Florida. I sent them down there to live with their relatives. And they ended up coming back for, I think the reason on them was that there was a falling out with the folks that they were living with, which sometimes happens, and they just managed to find their way back here because this was a place they were comfortable. So it does happen. We do track recidivism, but it's a little harder to track that. That's easier for us to track when it's people that we've gotten into an actual housing program. We can very easily track that. The only way we could track the people that would return from that bus program is if we happen to run back into them. And then if we do, we'll count them as a recidivism that we try to, obviously that's a statistic we keep track of, and we try to minimize that as best we can. It's actually on that chart there. We've had 15 year to date that have either people that have come back or people that have fallen out of a housing program. So it does happen. I wouldn't say it happens often, but there's a variety of reasons for it. I would say most often it probably has to do with there becomes a falling out with the family, which can happen because many of these folks are experiencing this because of mental health issues as well as, substance use issues. And, people, family will say, yes, come with us, come live with us. And then things like that, they're not prepared to handle or deal with. And then there could be a falling out that leads to, them telling them they have to leave and then they just come back here.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Sergeant Neinstedt. I wanted to highlight a couple of programs,
Yep.
a couple of things that we're really excited about. So I did talk about the Housing First program. This does follow national models of best practices. It is all about getting people into housing first and then addressing their other needs. Old school thinking in housing the homeless was people needed to earn their way into housing. They needed to be sober a certain amount of time. They needed to, engage in particular services. This turns that around, and it really looks at the idea of people really can't address other issues if they don't feel safe, if they don't have a safe place to lay their head. I will say it's not 100%. There are people who need to go through treatment first, but they say that this is an 80% success rate when you start with a housing first model, getting people housed, and now let's address their other issues. It has been very successful for the city and the county. However, we would love to get that caseworker on board so it can be even more successful. So then we have the homeless preference program and the housing choice voucher program. So when I got here in July of 2019, one of the first things I did was go to a COC meeting, introduce myself, and say, okay, what's the problem? Why do we still have this number of people on the streets? And I was told there are not enough units of affordable housing. There's not enough assisted units. So in October of 2019, we devised the PHA plan for 2020 and came to the PHA board, the council, and requested to be able to create the homeless preference program, which took and allowed us to take 10% of our housing choice vouchers and prioritize them for those who are coming from homelessness, who are being referred by homeless service providers in our community. And that was a huge win. It really was a huge win for our efforts. However, several months in, we were getting very few referrals, similar to what we were having trouble in the Housing First program. And I went back to the COC meeting and I said, okay, it's been 4 months and we have these 300 vouchers out there and we've received like 12 referrals. What's going on? And they said, well, there's just not enough caseworkers. So think of the timing of that. In May of 2020, all of a sudden we got ESG Cares money because of COVID-19, and we said, we really saw, just as the Congress and the HUD did, that people experiencing homelessness could be a huge spreader of COVID-19. So we really needed to prioritize trying to get people to utilize the vouchers that are available. So let's fund caseworkers. So we did an RFP to use both ESG and CDBG CARES funding, and there's a unique, bureaucracy twist why we had to use both. But to fund a full-time caseworker to work out of the Substance Abuse Center of Central Kansas, the Mental Health Associates, and the United Methodist Open Door. So some of our choice was very deliberate: a substance abuse provider, a mental health provider, and a generalist, to try and get them to work together to try and move as many folks out of homelessness and into housing using these resources. We did have to use ESG and CDBG because the rules under ESG say once they're housed, you can no longer use ESG because they're not homeless. So we had to actually marry the funding sources together because we didn't want to abandon people, just put them into housing and, like we say, housing first, and then go, oh, I can't provide you case management any longer. So we did marry those two sources together in order to create these positions. All three agencies hired folks and put them into play. Several months later, we're still not receiving the referrals that we would like. So we go back to the COC and say, what's the problem? And I hear, well, yeah, the vouchers are great, but there's not enough landlords that are willing to participate. And so we had ESG Cares funding. We said, let's try something. Let's create the Landlord Incentive Program, which is really a risk mitigation fund for damages or unpaid rent for landlords who are willing to take a chance and house somebody coming from homelessness. But there was a time limit on when we could use the funding. So definitely it was a pilot program. We made it available. Only 10 landlords opted to participate for 13 tenancies in total. So,
Can you review that again?
so there were 10 landlords that opted to participate in the landlord incentive program for 13 total clients. So we had one landlord that did 3 clients and 9 landlords that did 1 client. But we've also had no claims for damages or unpaid rent since that started. So we do know we will have some funding to reallocate from that program once the time frame expires. But it didn't help move the needle of enough units. So we brainstormed some more, and here comes the studios at Humankind, right? Now we're thinking big. What can we do to increase the number of units where landlords are willing to help, participate? And you remember that was a very crazy time, but we got it done. And if you've had a chance to tour it, it looks phenomenal. And we are absolutely leasing up people in there every week, are we not? So very proud of that program. It is designed in a way to be sustainable for at least the 15-year compliance period. That their operational income from the rents that they're able to collect from the vouchers is enough to sustain the maintenance of the building, 2 on-site case managers, and 24 security. So we're very, very proud of this endeavor, but part of this was really, we needed more units. So how can we do this? And that's where we ended up there. And then Sergeant Neinstedt hit up on the social worker internship program. Susanna, Sarah, you want to come up? So the social worker internship program is another program I'm really, really proud of. And as you heard from Sergeant Neinstedt, they've been a tremendous resource to the HOT team. But not just to the HOT team, they work in our office and help us work the paperwork to get people moved in. They're doing case management with clients. They are a master's level social work students from both Newman and from WSU. A tremendous asset, and I asked the 2 that are here today to come on up and just kind of tell you about their experience in the internship program.
Hello everyone, my name is Susanna Gibak and I'm one of the students from Wichita State. This is my 2nd year in the program, so I'll be finishing up in May. And prior to this internship, I had not worked with this population at all. I did a little bit with child welfare, and before that I just came straight from my undergrad. So I saw this one pop up, and I was like, I'm interested in this population. I want to help be a part of that. I have no idea what that'll look like. So I applied, and I got it, and here I am. And when I tell you I hit the ground running, I certainly did. I had never seen one of the vouchers before. I hadn't worked with any of the service providers, so now I've got to be a part of issuing those vouchers, checking for eligibility, and then I've got to meet different service providers, talk about their services, and even the barriers to care and some of that, and how we can address those and make connections and build relationships with those different organizations to hopefully, move everyone towards working towards the same goal. So that's been very interesting. This internship is unique in the realm of social work because you get micro interactions as well as macro. So I'm helping with the issuance of vouchers, with this new emergency housing voucher, getting to see that work, but at the same time working one-on-one with clients, not only with the clients that we have here with the vouchers, but also with the HOT team. So like they had said before, I get to ride along once a week, and that's really cool because not only do I get to help them with their paperwork, see their side of things, but now we have the equipment where we can do referrals for the voucher in person with people, get their documentation in, all right there while we're meeting them, maybe under a bridge, and that's really cool. So we're bringing the services to them and bridging gaps, and that's been really interesting. Just collaborating with the police department in general has been great because, as things have moved on, social workers have tried to see how can we be a part of the law enforcement to make it just a better service for everyone. And then like Sally was saying, I'm going to start some case management, and that's been really cool. That looks like maybe in the beginning helping to try and find housing. Sometimes an individual may just need someone to sit with them as they're calling the different landlords, because it can be really frustrating if you keep getting turned down because they're like, we don't want to work with homeless. Oh, you have a felony in the past? No. So just being there to help, problem solve. Hey, we're going to take this one thing one step at a time. So yes, that has been my experience, and I've really appreciated it, and I'm going to turn it over to Sarah now.
So my name is Sarah, and I'm in my first practicum at Newman University. I was a part-time student, so I should be graduating hopefully May 2023. And I actually come from a different background. I've actually had volunteered and worked in homeless services on and off like the last 3-ish years. So I've worked with HIV positive people. I've worked doing like the front door services, doing the coordinated entry in other cities besides Wichita. And actually for the last year, I worked at Harbor House as a case manager doing domestic violence. So I come very much with the passion to help those who are unhoused. So this has been something I've really, like when it came up, I really was like, yes, this is what I want to do, because it's seeing the front side of helping get the voucher versus the helping them find the housing. And then I also had the opportunity in January to do a ride-along with the domestic violence team. And I kind of fell in love with that whole aspect of let's put a social worker into the car with the police officers. And so that's, for me, it's the highlight of my week is when I get to be with the hot officers, doing the ride-alongs, doing the, in person, let's help you right here, right now. And then just as Susanna was saying, being able to work with individuals, but then also being able to work with the policy. So seeing how we can help with policy, as Sally was speaking today, I'm like, oh, yeah, this is what I more of what I like to do. So that's a little bit of what I've been doing, and I love this program, and I'm happy that I was able to do this.
Any questions? So as you can see, a little bit of passion there, huh? Yeah. A little bit of selfishness there on my part too, because I'm trying to build people who want to come in and do this work, come work for us, be case managers, work for ComCare, help with those in our community. Councilmember Cirillo, did you have a question?
Yes. Sally, thank you. I was looking on the Sedgwick County government website. Are these positions that you're talking about that you're saying that they can't find people to work, is this the HealthLink care coordinator or the Center City field case manager?
It could be a combination of many of those. They serve in different capacities out of ComCare. They can have different focal points, but my last number I heard was they were down 200 caseworkers.
Yeah, I was just looking at these, and the starting pay is $14 to $15 an hour. So
I intend that. It's like same thing.
That's why we can't find.
I agree.
No, I wouldn't think somebody's going to go to work to do this kind of thing for $15 an hour.
And put that into context, this morning I got out a little late, had to go eat breakfast over at Spangles, and their starting pay is $12 an hour. So, when we think about competitive pay for really important jobs, I agree with you. I think $14 is probably one of their issues for attracting folks into this.
Absolutely, and it's tough work. You're dealing with people with serious mental illness, substance abuse, very complex issues, very trying. So I do feel sorry for them sometimes. But this is one program, again, I'm very excited about, has been tremendously successful. We are funding it with ESG Cares funds. Boo-hoo, those run out at the end of the spring semester. So we are looking to try and be creative to find a way to continue this work, because we definitely see how well it goes over with the HOT team, with the community at large, with the agencies to have those connections. So, yeah. So one of our biggest issues, in my opinion, now mind you, this is my opinion, is what I call trouble with the numbers. How can we even think about trying to create a plan to end a problem when we can't even get good numbers on what is the problem? How many people? And I'll tell you, so there's a thing called the by name list. So the Homeless Management Information System, it is a requirement of HUD for this continuum of care to have a software that is compliant with HMIS requirements to enter client level data about each client, their provision of housing services, their risk of homelessness, They're responsible for selecting a software solution. We love when HUD does that. You need to go out in the private marketplace and solicit, but it has to do this, this, and this. And all entities that receive HUD funding have to enter into the HMIS system. And actually, I'm going to update this. So according to HMIS, I finished this yesterday, there were 224 people on the by name list. That was the October 1st number. They didn't get back to me till this morning. That number is 182 for November 1st. People on the by name list. It's a good thing. I mean, we went from 224 to 182, and I can say most of that is the studios at Humankind opening up and the issuance of the emergency housing vouchers. However, is it really 224? I don't think so, right? Because when we do the point in time count, the point in time count is an activity required by HUD for all continuums, and they require you go out on a day in the last week of January and count everybody experiencing homelessness, whether sheltered or unsheltered. And everyone goes, why do you do it at that time of year? Like, well, in their mind, people who generally don't go to shelter are resistant to shelter will maybe show up at the shelter the last week of January when the weather is the roughest. But it does make it challenging on those of us who are out, climbing under the bridges, trying to find all of those who are not coming to the shelter. So as you see, our number is 619. Now this is, I hate to say, January 2020. January 2021, HUD, because of COVID, said we're not making you do the PIC count this year. But January of 2020, that number was 619. How do I have the by name list saying 182 and the PIC count consistently 570 to 620? Something is wrong. So then I go, we put out ESG funds, we do an RFP process, and I look at all of those applications that come in, and these are the numbers I'm getting from the agencies. That those are the number of unduplicated individuals served by those organizations. And United Methodist Open Door is saying 1,900. How do you devise a plan? Is the number 182? Is it 619? Or is it 1,900? So this is where I struggle.
And Sally, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Or kind of a statement question? I'm assuming that this is just people who are unsheltered, under bridges, whatever. We also know that homelessness is people who are couch surfing and, living from place to place or living in their car, maybe just not seen, correct? Right? So this is just people like out that we can visibly see are not
engaged with. It's even more than just seeing them.
So really the problem's more severe, just
Yes.
because we're not thinking of all the people who don't have sustainable housing.
Yes,
They're just
single
finding a
individual
place.
adults that couch hop don't meet HUD's definition of homeless.
Okay.
Now, if you have children, then you do, but those single individual adults don't. So I look at the numbers and I say, we need to do better. If one of our first short-term goals should be, we need to require, remember I said all agencies funded by HUD have to enter into HMIS. Well, our biggest shelter provider, Union Rescue Mission, does not receive HUD funds, so they do not enter into HMIS, which gives us skewed data, terrible skewed data. This is one of the first things I think we need to do is how do we go about getting better data? So that's kind of the bad news. And I provided for you here, this is a listing of all the shelter and transitional housing beds available as of December of last year. They'll be updating this again for the housing inventory count. But we have a total of 440 year-round beds and 580 in the winter when the winter shelter is open. So if there's only 182 on the list, why do we have a problem, right? Those are the things that go through my mind. But we also have an opportunity, actually 3 opportunities. And it's a convergence, as I call it, of opportunities. So Project Hope, this is the Byrne grant. This is the grant I never thought we were going to get on a first-time application. Because it was so out there, the idea of going to the Department of Justice to fund caseworkers. Well, we were definitely awarded, and I'm very excited on what's happening with that grant. So we did receive a $1 million competitive grant. We are one of 11 that received it in this cohort. And Kansas was actually the only state to have 2 in the same state, so Kansas City, Kansas also received this grant. But Nashville, Tennessee, Madison, Wisconsin, that are involved in our cohort. And we get to hear about their programs on Wednesday next week in a cohort meeting. But we received this $1 million grant. Our idea at the time, and it was working very, very close with WPD and the HOT team, was to say, if we recognized we had a target area where we had 3 times the number of calls for service to WPD involving homelessness in this target area. Really, everyone knows it's the Broadway corridor, right? So working with the WPD analyst, we identified a 1.5 square mile because that was the size DOJ wanted us to look at. And the whole concept is about putting resources to address homelessness in the target area to then see a reduction in crime. So this is really exciting. We are in the planning stage. We had our first public meeting week before last, what we called our community kickoff. We're assembling our leadership council for this, and there are a few other ideas that we have in here. So Newman University is our evaluator. They helped us write the grant. They will be working with WPD to gather the data. They'll also be doing, this is what I think is so great, surveys. Resident surveys, business surveys, surveys of providers, and surveys of those experiencing homelessness in our target area, so that we can get a better idea about the root causes. What are the barriers? We're not just subject to our opinions or what we think it might be, which I think can help guide us going forward. We also have a component in here where we're partnering with Workforce Alliance. And so those folks, once we get them housed, those that are able can go through Workforce Alliance's Second Chance program. It is a Department of Labor funded employment training program for people with high barriers. And then to be able to provide employment stipends for businesses in or around our target area, or maybe elsewhere, who are willing to take a chance and hire our folks that have gone through this program. So we're very excited about it. It is an opportunity, and you guys get to be the premiere of our introductory video. We have to present this video at the cohort meeting next week, and it's just 5 minutes that introduces the cohort to what our project is.
The city of Wichita is seeing exciting growth, especially in our downtown. But like all major cities, homelessness and crime are still issues that we must face. Through Project Hope, our Housing and Community Service Department and our Wichita Police Department are teaming up with those who live, work, or play in our downtown area to find and implement solutions together.
The issues that we see in the downtown core area often revolve around homelessness, nuisance crimes, and a perception that it's a violent area. What we want to do is we want to, first of all, help the vulnerable individuals that are there that aren't connected with resources, get them stabilized and into housing, and then focus on the elements that feed into crime and disorder and reduce that.
But we do have quite a bit of traffic. We've had to fence our area and put up gates that close at night. As a business owner, I'm somewhat accustomed to it, but my clients that come from surrounding areas are sometimes a little bit taken aback.
We have had a lot of engagement in the target area with our special teams, our homeless populations that we serve. We've got 2 special voucher programs that we're able to utilize for our homeless. And so we have worked very closely with agencies within the community and partnering with them to find housing for our homeless.
I'm concerned that we don't have any long-term solutions for the folks that are in that target area. We have a lot of short-term solutions. We have shelters, we have meals, we have clothing banks, but most of the people that we're seeing need long-term drug and alcohol treatment. They need mental health services.
So using the data and with our research partner, Newman University, we're hoping to be able to prove that if you put resources towards ending homelessness, we're going to see a correlation to reducing crime in the area, improving quality of life for all residents.
what's really important is when we're dealing with somebody that we come across out on the street, I mean, one of our first goals, our goal is to get them into housing eventually, right? And so we have many challenges maybe to get there, but we can't get there without having a partnership with the housing department.
For any organization or grant project, we want our focus to be directed towards the data in the area so that we know what we're looking for, what areas are going to be the prime locations. We can make sure that we're not wasting our resources on a spot that's not important. For the community-driven aspect, it's the people that are in the area are going to know more about it. The more that we can get information from them, the more we can direct our resources easily.
With this project, it's a unique opportunity for us to help them with their data, not only the collection of the data, but the presentation of the data. We have a history in our community of keeping track of the number of crimes, but we don't have a history in our community of asking ourselves why those crimes are being committed, and more specifically, like with this project, where the crimes are being committed. Ultimately, what we're going to be able to do by bringing them together, by bringing the skills and the information or the ability that Newman has, with the Wichita Police Department, is asking the question, not only how can we collect it, but how can we communicate it? Because numbers don't tell us what's really happening. It's the people that are the basis for the numbers that's going to make the difference here.
As we move forward, all of our intervention strategies will be designed to give law enforcement immediate access to community resources when responding to a crime or call for service involving our homeless population. Our strategy is focused upon creating a solid, permanent, and flexible connection between law enforcement officers and private and public community resources that will divert homeless individuals back into the community instead of into the criminal justice system.
The idea is really to bring in residents, business owners, those who provide services to the homeless themselves, bring them all together to try and find resources and solutions to ending homelessness in our community. Absolutely, it is that improved quality of life. Reductions in crime, drawing more businesses to locate downtown, having residents feel safe, drawing people to the area. And then, the byproduct of that is we can be really changing the lives of those who were at one point experiencing homelessness.
Thank you to Tyler for putting that together for us. He did a great job. So we're very excited, as you can tell, Project Hope. It is just one activity that's going on. Then, as you also remember, the last en banc meeting, the council and the commission asked the Mental Health and Substance Abuse Coalition to work with city and county staff to kind of come up with a plan to address homelessness. So we've had 2 meetings so far. We have a 3rd meeting on November 16th, identifying resources and ideas. And then our 3rd opportunity actually comes from HUD once again. We did receive an allocation of $5.5 million in ARPA funds that are for the home program. But a little twist to the regular home program, it has to be spent on services to assist homelessness. So 4 eligible activities, the production or preservation of affordable housing units for those experiencing homelessness, tenant-based rent assistance, which would be like mimicking a voucher program, supportive services, homeless prevention services, and housing counseling, and then the purchase and development of non-congregate housing, which I call the 316 clause, because we tried, when the money first came out, to fund it in a different mechanism, and we ran into some problems in the legislation that didn't allow us to fund it entirely with ESG funds. And so this whole section in the law talks about giving you the opportunity to purchase a hotel, use it temporarily for non-congregate shelter, and then converting it into permanent supportive housing. So yeah, I call it the 316 hotel clause. But it does require the development and submission of a comprehensive plan. So the plan must include consultation with the COC agencies, a public participation, and then a needs assessment and gap analysis. And so we are actually working right now with a consultant to come in and work with us, to work with the agencies to put together a plan. Now, mind you, that's a plan related to our home ARP funds, but we see it as an opportunity to kind of combine everything that's going on. What's going on with Project Hope? What's going on with the en banc directive? Trying to pull that all together. Because one of the things I do fear is see me show up at 3 different meetings, they're like, hey, didn't we just talk to you last week about Project Hope, and now you're here talking to me about Hallmark? We really need to leverage those resources together and come up with a very comprehensive plan to move forward, for sure. So that's what I have for your update today. I know it went a little long, but some good stuff here, I think. Any questions?
Can we get the PowerPoint?
Sure.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the summary is, we're doing a lot in homelessness.
Any more questions or discussion? See none. Thank you.
Thank you.